previous talks earlier this spring talked about mindfulness and the healing qualities of mindfulness. Tonight I'd like to take a step further, and rather than talk about the systematic practices which are important and wonderful of working with breath and body and mindfulness and loving kindness in a systematic way, I want to talk about the fruits of meditation a bit, because sometimes hearing about it awakens within us a knowing or an understanding that we already carry. And part of the fruits of meditation, quieting the mind and transforming the heart, is the ability to connect with something that is timeless, that is outside of the ordinary round of our days, with a spirit that nourishes our being in a way that almost nothing else can. And it's beautiful to watch people on retreats. If some of you I know have done a week retreat or 10-day retreat and so forth, those people come in tired and haggard and exhausted and restless and filled with tension and so forth. And as the days go on, I mean, I see it too in classes over time, but especially it's visible because I'm with people on retreats. As the days go on, they get lighter and their faces get more open and their shoulders drop a little and, you know, a little bit of a facelift, somebody said. And there's a sense of ease and connectedness and a deepening openness to the reality of the present, to living life rather than being lost as we are so often in the competing plans and thoughts and multitasking that's been asked of us. There's something really deep that happens when we let ourselves sit still and come back and listen. And I think tonight of my dear friend Salaam, who was on and off as a Palestinian activist, was on and off imprisoned in Israel for writing about a free Palestine in the years when it wasn't legitimate legally to do so, and was at one point, as happens in war on all sides, was at one point beaten and tortured. And as he said, he died, or so they wrote in the police report. But actually he had one of those out-of-the-body experiences that many people report during accidents and other kinds of dramatic or traumatic times. And what he reported, to kind of keep this evening's version of the story short, after some remarkable experiences of that kind, he said, you know, they could imprison my body, but they couldn't touch my spirit. It's like Nelson Mandela walking out of Robben Island prison after 27 years with such a grand and compassionate vision of humanity, with so much magnanimity and graciousness and forgiveness. They can imprison your body, but they can't touch your spirit. And so there's something in meditation about learning to reconnect with ourselves and quiet ourselves and be more mindful as we eat or as we attend to things. But there's also some deeper truth that awaits every human being always here, the vast silence around us and the spirit that's born into us. And one of the things that happens as we practice mindfulness and coming to live in the present is that there awakens in us a shift of identity. Kalu Rinpoche, great Tibetan Lama, says, you live in illusion and the appearance of things. You're always kind of worried about all these different changing conditions of the world. There is a reality, but you do not know this. And when you understand, you will see that you are nothing. And being nothing, you are everything. that is all. So this is a pretty condensed, pithy, and serious teaching. You are nothing, and being nothing, you are everything. That is all. It's not a philosophy. It's actually an experience, and I will talk about it because you know it in some deep way. So at one point, the Buddha was standing in the forest or the grove in the Pt1 monastery, and he reached down and he picked up a handful of grass and twigs and leaves, and he said to his monks and nuns, "Would you call this grass and these twigs and these leaves you, yourself, I, me, mine?" And they said, "No, that's leaves, that's grass, that's twigs." He said, "Neither so, then, is the physical body who you are. That's also not I. Neither are the feelings, neither are the thoughts." Now this becomes a little bit more complicated because we tend to think that we are our body or our feelings or our thoughts. But as you start to become mindful of the body, you notice it has its own rhythms in life. And sometimes it's painful, and sometimes it's pleasant, and sometimes there's tension, and sometimes it's heat and cold. The elements show themselves. It's hard and soft. I remember walking through the Miami airport, and this happens pretty regularly to me just because I've met so many people over the years. And a guy came up to me, I was on my way to some retreat, and he says, "Hey Jack, remember me? I sat the retreat in 1978 in Massachusetts." It was a long retreat, and I kind of remembered him. And he said, "You know, I'm not a very good meditator. After that, I kind of lost it and, did various other things." He said, "But last year I had a heart attack. And as I was being taken to the hospital, the emergency room, and then moved into surgery, and my body was in great pain." He said, "I knew what to do. All that meditation training came back. I knew how to be with what was painful. I knew how to be with my breath. I knew how to be in the space of awareness." He said, "And it's so helpful to have done that, even though I thought I had failed by not continuing." So there comes a kind of wisdom of how to be with what is in the body in a wise and a mindful relationship, to see that it's not your pain or your joy, but as you sit, it's heat and cold, and it is tension and release, and it's not personally your pain, it's just the pain of having a body. Anybody not have it, first of all? Just check in. It's the pain. It's the pain of you're born into a body. It's one of the things you have. And it's part of humanity. And you go, "Oh yeah, it's not mine. It's just part of this human nature." Or you sit and you pay attention with mindfulness to your emotions, which change like the spring weather in the Bay Area this year. Dazzling sun, oh, summer has come, more rains, And it's what happens. You sit there and you feel happy, and then you feel sad, and then you feel anxious. And I have this list that I read sometimes of 500 different emotions and feelings, and so forth. And at first, you take them personally, or you don't want a particular one, and you want some other. I like these emotions, and I don't like those emotions. But that's not how it works, actually. They come and go on their own. Sometimes tears, sometimes laughter, sometimes joy, sometimes anxiety. Anybody not have anxiety sometime? Just checking again here, okay? It's humanity, and you start to see, oh, these are the vocabulary of the river of feelings. There's a river of body experiences that we all live with. There's a river of emotions. My teacher Ajahn Chah said that if you haven't really wept deeply, you probably haven't meditated very much yet. Because there is in us an ocean of tears, of loss and grief. But there's also incredible joy to be found. All of these are a part of ourselves. And we can touch them, and they become, in some way, both alive to us, and in another way, not quite so personal. And then your thoughts. It's one thing to have body sensations and another have emotions. but we actually believe our thoughts. That is nutty. It is. First of all, 95% of them are reruns, as you know. And not only that, they're boring reruns. I mean, if somebody next to you, if you could kind of turn up the volume so the person sitting next to you heard your thoughts, they would think you were nuts. They would say, oh, she or he has an obsessive compulsive disorder, we know that. But I think it's bordering on psychosis. Look at them, you know, and then we take them to be, and they have so many opinions, and the mind has no pride and it will do anything. Right?